Hey, it's Stephanie. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Unwritten. I have my friend Jessica Summers here. Thank you for being here, Jessica.
Thank you.
Jessica is tuning in all the way from Southern California, which is where I want to be. So she's living my dream life right now, and I'm jealous.
And you're coming to visit soon.
I am. I'm going to come to visit in February. That's when I want to get out there. So I didn't tell you that part before the
It's so it is done.
uh, okay, so Jessica and I met through podcasting. She was actually my very first guest on my podcast on my very first season one. I was blown away by her story and we have become friends. So Jessica is an author, a speaker, a coach. She is an amazing person. So I'm just so grateful that you're spending time with me this morning.
I'm so grateful to be here, especially after, I was emotional and I reached out to you and you're like, "Let's do this. Let's do it."
Mhm.
So I'm
Well,
I'm thankful.
yeah, I mean, we live in a society that emotions they're deemed bad. We're all supposed to mask up, and do the things and be the person that we think we should be for everybody else, but deep down we're all just human. And
Right? I mean, isn't that I mean, perfect start into the conversation. The masks. You're too much. Calm down. That's inappropriate. We don't talk about that. It's like, when do we talk about the things that are inappropriate because they are inappropriate? You know what I mean? Um, and that's, what got me started. Um, this morning, I went out on my walk and it just kind of came over me. So I have two daughters and I had read about that little girl who had been lured basically by 8 and a 10-year-old. I couldn't read the whole thing because it took over, but it just showed me again that we're not doing enough around the sexual violence that is everywhere because we are told to calm down. It's too much, right? It's like we perpetuate the same things because we make light of situations when actually somebody is behaving in a manner that is saying, "I need fucking help," right? The behavior is there because they're in survival. They don't know what else to do. They've been told to be quiet for so long. They're too much, right? But we need to talk about what you see in the movies is happening under your nose, is happening next door, is happening in your own house, is happening down the street, it's happening around the corner, right? We still have this illusion and that we feed into that those people over there in the bad neighborhood doing the bad things. It's like, it's every single one of us until we start doing the work because we are showing up as our wounded selves, being a part of the very things that we despise and hate when we don't say, "How am I showing up? What are my own fears, my own experiences, my survival that I'm still in, that I'm totally unaware of?" Like, so many things, right? I see it all the time. I work with clients that we start off saying we're gonna, in like the master your mindset, for instance. And we can't even really get into that yet because I have to work them with them first to have them acknowledge where they really are in the moment. Like right now, it's like, we'll get there, but you have to acknowledge that you are still pushing, striving, hustling, doing everything, looking outside of yourself, trying to prove because you're still trying to fix what you think you need to fix in your own way, in your learned behavior, in the survival patterns that got you here, but now we're here. And if we're going to
Yeah.
stop that cycle, we have to acknowledge that.
Yeah, and there's so many things that you just said that are so deep. I wanna kind of I know where we're going with this conversation, so I kinda wanna let our guests know too that are listening, that we're talking about the things that happen in our lives that we push under the rug because we think it's our fault, and then 20, 30, 40, 50 years go by, and we're like, "Shit, I'm unlovable. I have so much shame," and who we are, right? Who we show up as you said, is hitting this brick wall that we have put up because we feel so much shame and we feel so unlovable that we are afraid to be seen. And that's what we're talking about. And we're talking about the things that happen to us that we don't want to talk about and we think aren't a big deal. And we think that if we just don't talk about it, then maybe it'll just go away. But it doesn't go away. Like, how do we identify these blocks, these barriers of shame and unlovableness?
Right? I mean, I will say this is the women that decide, like, I don't even know what this looks like, but I'm just going to take a chance on myself. It is the most fucking courageous thing you can ever do. It is taking a look at something that you have labeled as a me problem. It's all the tools that you've learned around it has helped you to survive. So why on earth would you do anything other than continue to do exactly what you've been doing? To release that, to even consider that is, in most cases that I've seen, it just has to be a quick second where you jump, you just jump. Maybe again too, this little girl, I mean, I also know, sexual abuse. Um, um, like my first was an older guy who I now see it as I wanted to be loved so bad
Mhm,
that, I dated this older guy. I was 15 and he was probably like, 19, 20, 21. And I mean, he forced himself on me and told me, like, if I really loved him, that, we would do this. And I was terrified, but I wanted to be loved. Um, so, y- you tough it out. We don't realize that the jokes that people make around young girls, women, in their fumbling around in their own sexuality, making mistakes, maybe, is they're just doing their best from what they've experienced in their life. And we make jokes and then they behave badly and then we kick them down some more. And then we're a ball of shame, guilt, fear. I have no self love. I don't care about myself. So I'm going to seek it outside of myself. Like, we don't even realize really the monsters we are creating by not sharing, by not talking, by not having the understanding and the awareness that we, the people, are creating this by wanting to have our cake and eat it too.
mhm. I know for me, when I was I got pregnant at 16 by a guy who was, like, 19 or 20, and, he was never in the picture really, but it was always, like, I was the irresponsible one, you know? Like, I was the irresponsible mother to have gotten pregnant and had twins and then, you know, ultimately was super responsible, and it was never about him. Like, it was never about, "Oh, this guy was, like, 4 years older than me," which is a shit ton when you're that young, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And what he did to me. It was always about what did I do to my parents? What did I do as a young girl, you know? And we face these. It's society, but we also do it to ourselves because we just hope and pray that it doesn't happen to our daughters, and we're not doing anything about it.
Right. Right. And that's, another reason why, I shared that I was emotional, but I'm showing up, you know. I wasn't
Mhm.
not going to show up because every single one of us has a duty once we can, I guess, get to a place to where we can have these conversations because trust and believe there was a time where I was no way. I couldn't
Girl.
even, you know, I had
Mhm.
so much healing to do in order to get here.
Yeah.
But now that I'm here, what am I gonna do with it? What am I gonna do?
Yeah. What are you gonna do with it?
Right? Start using my voice, right? And
Yeah.
if I show up with a snot nose on a podcast, then so be it. That I have been told so many times that I'm too emotional.
Yeah.
What the fuck else am I supposed to be? It is an outrage. It's not okay. This is on one of the comments on when I was reading about this little girl, this adorable, and I'm sorry I don't have her name. Like I said, I could not. It is not out of disrespect. It was too much for me.
Yeah.
Um, but it needs to be talked about. It needs to be shared. A 5-year-old little African American darling little girl got lured into a field by some other kids and was beaten, had her hair ripped out, and was like just violently sexually abused and left there naked, just like a nothing. And like I said, I couldn't finish reading it, but that I had read parts that they weren't going to be tried because they couldn't because of their ages.
They were 8, you said?
8,
They were
8, and
young?
8 and 10, I believe. Um, I don't even know what to think and feel and what to do with this, but it keeps coming up for me. And so I'm really trying to wrap my head around it and, pray about it like, God, what do you want me to do with this? Right? Because isn't that really what we're all meant to do? Is to use our voice whenever we can, because the old way of doing things was to keep our mouth shut in guilt and shame and fear. And if we don't start leaning into that, then we perpetuate the same thing over and over. And we continuously say, the world is crazy. Hello, we are the world. And if we keep pointing the finger at everybody else and don't take a look at ourselves, we are a part of the problem and not a part of the solution, you know? Um, and it really it starts by acknowledging this is real, this is happening, and it happens to everybody every second of the day, anywhere, everywhere. And I say that because one of the comments on when I was reading, somebody said, "This is horrific. I'm wondering if this is real or if it's AI." It's like, That's the problem. That's the problem. We still don't recognize that it is very real. It happens all of the time. And we make jokes like, boys will be boys. That's not a big deal. Where does it start and where does it end? Our children absorb, they're sponges. They absorb everything. When you think they're just a 1-year old, a 2-year old, 3-year old, 5-year old, they are sucking it all up. Imagine living on planet Earth nowadays, because now that I've done the work and I've unraveled things, I didn't even know that my program was, you're either married with children or you don't matter. You're a silly girl. Your ideas are silly. Shut up. You're too much. If you're not married with children, then you're a whore. A lot of weird and mixed up messages. How do I present myself? Do I button this up? Can I wear that? I don't know. Everything was a question and I didn't even know, I didn't even realize it. What the hell is normal? What is a healthy sexual relationship when you get triggered, when you're maybe crying, when you don't want to be touched and then you blame yourself, right? So much weird ass shit that we don't talk about openly, but we do it and we're a part of it, but we don't even acknowledge it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. There's, like, so many things that are coming up for me. Um, I think about high school and, like, the jocks in high school and how it was okay for them to, like, grab your butt or say something to you because they were, like, the cool kids, and the teachers promoted it. Everybody promoted, this overly masculine, energy, and then, I got in my 20s and still getting attention from men. I didn't ask for it. What do we do to, like, just keep ourselves from that constant masculine energy that's out there? And I'm not saying, like, men are bad, because I love men
Yeah.
very much.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like, uh, we can't just, sit at home because the world outside is really scary. We do have to stand up, and I know, being a single woman with a career, I face that too. It's like, what's wrong with her that she's not married?
Mm.
It's like, well, maybe I'm just not settling. Like, you know, who would have, that's a crazy, crazy thought.
Right, right. And I think that's the beauty of it too, it's what's coming up. This is real. This is real life. This happens. Um, I mean, just the business, like, things are going well, and I go out on my walk and I just start bawling, right? That's real life, right?
Mhm.
Something triggered me so deeply that it made me think about all the little girls. Made me think about me when I was a little girl, you know? And that
Because we're all little girls. We're all walking around with the same wounds.
I am the first um stuff that happened was my mom's boyfriend. And I had made, and I didn't even realize this until like later in life, but I had made up a story around it. The wound around it was my mom didn't care enough about me. She let it happen.
Mhm.
Um, and I carry that for a long, 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 long time. And I didn't even have the awareness around it, you know? And this is, again, why we talk and have to talk about these things. Everybody, I was going to say a majority, everybody has their own experience and reality of what life is, no matter what. But that is such an individual thing. So the individual really has to stop and pause to acknowledge how they are really showing up, because the world has taught us to be competitive, um, judgmental. It's everything out there. It's not me. If I'm not doing those horrible things over there, I'm cool. But no, it's if you've grown up on planet Earth, you have to heal what growing up on planet Earth has done to you. Until you have
Mm.
the awareness of who you really are, then you are part of the problem, period. There's no other way around it because you're running on autopilot. And autopilot is a shit show.
Yeah.
I bring up this because I think this is such a great story, and just I just think it just kind of drives home what I want to say about just learn things, and how we're not even aware of the things that we've learned.
Mhm.
So this guy, Daryl Davis, I'm pretty sure is his name. He's a like a blues jazz musician. I think he's from Mississippi, and I want to say he started it in the 80s, 90s, whatever. He's out. Him and his band are playing someplace, and he's a an African American guy. He sees these two white guys like totally like getting into it after the show. He goes over to them and says, "I saw you guys, really enjoyed the show. Thanks so much for coming out." And one of them says, "Wow, I couldn't believe it. I didn't know that black people could play music like that." And the guy was like, "Black people play music like that? Like, let's sit down and have a drink." He basically was like, "I'm gonna school you on where music really comes from." And so they sit down and they just engage in this conversation. And this guy says, "I have something to show you." And he whips out his wallet, and he's like I don't even know, some head honcho in the KKK. So they like befriend each other. And that was the beginning of him befriending other people in the KKK. And his mission was, "You don't even know me. How can you hate me?"
Mhm.
And he had I think like over 200 people turn in their robes that totally like gave up their whatever,
Yeah.
I don't even know what to
Just
call
from
it.
one conversation.
Just from one conversation. Because how how often does that happen? We don't even know why we hate people. We don't even know why we get triggered. We don't even know why we respond to the shit that we do. We just do and call it fact and real. And we'll argue till our death. Why? You don't even know until you check that out. Right? So, how often are all of us responding negatively because of the shit that we've learned growing up in this world? Right? So, I matter more than you. So, you're over there. You're the scary monster that, so I've heard, you know? Or like, don't even get me started with, people that are suffering from like mental health and addiction, homelessness, like all of those things. But we've grown up in this world thinking that it's those people again. Those people are us. What the F?
Mhm.
And our own families go through it, but we still don't even acknowledge it because we're on the program of, "That's bad. You're doing something wrong. Let me kick you while you're down."
Yeah.
And that's why everything is the way it is. It's like you either wake up or that's what you're doing. Whether you want to or not, you are. Until you have the awareness around who you really are, you're a part of that. So I think, that's I think my like biggest message, like there's nothing wrong with us. we're actually responding accordingly to our experiences. So it makes sense, but we have to look at that. You know, our subconscious program, it's real and it is controlling you. Period. And because of what we've learned growing up to strive, be more, hustle, push, if something's wrong, you fix it. Well, you've only learned how to do everything that somebody else has told you what to do. The world has told you this is how to live, but you've actually just survived. So it is the almost impossible to let go of.
Yeah. And that's the difference in life is are you surviving or are you living?
Yep. Yeah.
And I know that for myself, that was the most painful journey, you know? So I don't ever say like, "Oh, you need to do this way." But it's the rebirthing process of, like, knowing who you are and what you stand for. I mean, there's nothing better, but then you can't go back either.
Yeah.
And I think that's a real struggle for a lot of women, especially ones that, that have done the status quo and they've
Um,
kept their mouth shut, you know? It's really scary to open up some of those doors and see what's in that basement, those monsters.
and I think why I had to lean into is, after the experience that I had, I don't know if we talked about this last time, but uh I had done enough drugs to kill me. And I wasn't really trying to, but I was so sick in every way. And I wasn't paying attention and I did enough drugs, and at the same time I'm bawling my eyes out and I said, "God, why would you want me to suffer so bad?" And what should have killed me, I felt him, and a knowing came over me, and I was shown the interconnectedness of everything and how backwards we have it, and all of the things that we think we're doing with our good intention are the very things that are keeping people from becoming who they were meant to be. So it starts with us parents healing so we can guide and be a safe place for our children to grow up in a world that we know nothing about.
Mm.
So they can become who they are meant to become, especially now.
Yeah, instead of being like, "Oh, it's not like it used to be." It's like, you don't even have to talk about that. You just need to act with integrity,
And,
and then they will.
and guess what?
Something I just wanna say one thing real quick. Something since the last time we talked is, I'm 10 months sober from drinking. Yeah, almost 11 now, and, you know, there's a lot of shame around how I was as a mother drinking, realizing, like, it didn't matter that I told my kids, like, "Oh, I can come pick you up if you're drinking, at a party, don't drive," and how many times was I, like, drinking and just praying that they wouldn't call me, and now I get to be the mom that can show up
Yep.
for whoever, whoever needs it, and, um, it's a small step, but it's a big step,
It's
and
fucking huge. It's
yeah.
huge. Congratulations. And that is
Thanks.
huge. Um, Especially it makes me emotional because it I just know how kind of new and raw that still is.
Mhm.
It took me years. to even want to look at that shame and guilt that I had. Holy shit.
Mhm.
It was getting up and collapsing back into bed. It was a screaming and begging for mercy because it hurt so bad. But I also, because of what I saw, whether it hurt or not, you can make a difference when you heal that. If you
Yeah.
stay stuck in your guilt and shame and keep going down that path because it hurts too much, and in the process you get to heal yourself, you get to show up. And I mean, I'm showing up in a way that I couldn't show up. Even when I tried, I still, I remember being called say uh like you're barely a babysitter. And it was like after, I mean, shaking and pacing, just like, okay, I'm going to go see my girls at their game around all the people that just, I mean, talk about being kicked while you're down. Holy shit. I mean, question sometimes, what decade is this? Like, or century? It was like being burned alive at the stake. It was so intense. And it's like, I am doing my best. I'm sorry that you, who've never gone through anything like this, thinks that I need to be all put together after a near-death experience and being sick and, it's mind-boggling. But this is, I'm glad this is kind of coming up too. This is exactly why people stay where they're at and don't get the help,
Yeah.
because exactly those reasons.
Judgment from from other women. That's why we don't talk about all the shit, is because we fear judgment from other women. We just button up. And it's like I mean, I'm just realizing this now. So that's another thing. It's like, okay, like what we are doing right now, like even in this moment, it's healing. It's helping. I forget that we're on a podcast and like this is actually
Right? Like, we're
like
just
I'm just like in this with you and like like, oh yeah, this is gonna go out to other people. Like
that.
crap.
Oh, man. Isn't that when you think about it, right? I didn't even think about that at all either until you said that, and it's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, yeah. Oh, shit, I wonder what I've been saying." But, right? Isn't this what it's about? It's like,
Yeah.
if we're gonna show up, we gotta show up.
Yeah.
Does it mean that we can do it 100% of the time? No, but when we can, we better,
Right.
you know?
And it's okay to be in that vulnerable place. I know for a long time, the vulnerability felt so scary, like I was dying. And now it's like, okay, I know that I feel like I'm dying right now because I'm being vulnerable, but it's gonna go away. But it is a very scary feeling. I believe that's one of the first things you said was like taking that jump. And I don't think we use the word vulnerability, but it really is. That's the first piece. It's one of the pieces.
I mean, think about it too. It's like you're naked, so there's shame. So you're
Mhm.
hiding. You can't do that. There's no way I can do that. You want me to run down the street naked? Oh my God, have you lost your mind?
Mhm.
But that's where that's where it's at.
I know.
It's where it's at. I mean, you know how long it took me, and it's so. I mean, when I think about where I was and to here now, I paced day and night, months, maybe even years before I could even create a Facebook account. Can you imagine?
No, because like, you're doing so amazing.
Last March or this March, whatever March,
Yeah.
uh, it was International Women's Day, and I did a keynote in Paris, and I got an award for it, and I was afraid to create, once upon a time, a Facebook account. I was afraid to use my voice. I was afraid to be seen. I was afraid to share. I was afraid to show up. I was afraid, 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 afraid. But I took the jump one baby step at a time. It's just the acknowledgement that I'm going to do this no matter what it takes.
Yeah. Do you have a moment that you remember when you were just like, "All right, I know this is gonna be hard, but I'm committed to this."
I mean, there were so many things I had to let go of. But that experience that I had, I mean, it was a near death experience. There's no freaking way that I should have gotten up and walked out. But I got up and I drove myself home with the knowing that I was going to tell on myself, that I had switched from, because it started with my pregnancy with the doctor prescribed drugs, but I had stopped going to the doctor, went to street drugs, and was living a double life basically. And I now know that I was so not only physically ill, and that was legitimate, but all of my years of pushing down was coming up. I was in so much pain that I seriously thought the only way I can function is if I'm using drugs because I can't even breathe right now. I can't even, it hurt to talk. Everything hurt so bad. But I had wrapped it up in this physical part, right? Like, well, these things are legitimate. I am sick because of this, but I didn't acknowledge what it all was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yep.
I just there were so many things that I had to once I got up from that, there were so many things that I had to lean into and let go. One in particular, and this was the hardest, well, I don't even know, one of the hardest things, and it has to do with my children. I was basically getting I was in treatment that I put myself into, and I was getting chased around like, "Your husband wants you to sign these papers," and they were divorce papers. And I was terrified because I didn't understand, like, I couldn't the verbiage didn't make sense. I couldn't understand being divorced. I couldn't understand that he was seeing somebody else. I couldn't understand. I was so fragmented of self that I was going from A to D, like B and C didn't exist. So I was just grasping and I didn't understand. But I also knew that I was on my path and I was going to do it. And I knew that I could not fix the marriage. I I had to let that go. But I also was like, but I need the insurance to get the help that I need. What about my girls?" And again, it came over like, you have to let go. And I signed everything away. Every penny, all insurance, and my children. I signed it all away, knowing that I was going to do whatever it was going to take. And when I mean, just saying these words right now and thinking about it, um, the only thing I can say is God was with me because some of that pain was just, I don't even have a word for it. It's otherworldly. It is a,
Mm. And that's what pain wants.